Hi, everybody, and welcome to BIS 245, Database Essentials. Very important class to have and to know about. It is something that will set you apart from those in the workplace because it is a little bit more detailed and more advanced, and some people just don't want to take that extra time to learn it. So you are in a good place right now taking this class, and I do applaud you for just pursuing your education in general, and I wish you all the best in your career. So this is Database Essentials for Business with Lab. My name is Anastasia Jacobow-Rastian, and there's my email information on the screen and my phone number. Phone calls and text messages are most welcome, as well as email. Email does take a turnaround time depending on when I'm in the email or checking emails. So text messages can alert me to something that's more urgent, but there's nothing ever so urgent in the classroom that you not wouldn't have the flexibility of time to contact me, when you are able to. That is fine. But communication with me is best and your classmates. This way we can all know what's going on. And then when things are a little bit different than as scheduled, that will be fine. We'll just make some accommodations for that. One thing is that there are no extensions on discussion questions due to their time-sensitive nature. They must be completed within the week they are assigned. If you find yourself, though, in a dilemma where you had missed a week, there may be a one-time substitute that you can complete depending on your circumstances, but that you would need to reach me directly to determine if that's possible. All the projects, though, lab assignments, those can be completed up until the last day of class. There is flexibility on that because depending on the time you have and how much time it takes for you to complete the assignment, feel free then to complete it before you submit it, even if it's past the deadline. I'd rather you have a completed assignment submitted than one that's not, so then I'll just have to tell you, hey, it's not completed, please complete it, and then we're going back and forth in the grade book because I have to keep assigning you grades. So just wait till you complete it and complete it successfully, then submit it so that you can get that almost up to perfect score for this course. Okay, so let's move onwards. So this course builds on concepts learned in BIS 155, data analysis with spreadsheets with lab. In this course, students learn to design relational databases and to build database applications, which include tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, and to implement basic database security, backup, and recovery procedures. So this is common for all workplaces. One of the first things that a workplace will have when they get computerized or start putting things on the computer is a database, in addition to a spreadsheet for financial information. So that's why BIS 155 and BIS 245 are very essential for you. No matter where you work, you will encounter this in your workplace. And if you have that extra edge of knowledge in this area, that's a plus for you. And that is how maybe we'll get your foot in the door, or you'll be a little bit more competitive in the job market if you're looking for a job. So, but emphasis will be placed on generating reports and meeting business requirements because you have scenarios and you have to determine, well, what are the typical things that companies use databases for? What are the typical things that they do? So this is a wonderful example of showing you all the different scenarios. Every environment is different. So I do ask when you are in the discussion forums for sure, bring in what is used in your workplace. Please use your workplace as a case study. Go look and see what kind of database they have. How do they use it? What are some of the reports they generate? And it doesn't have to necessarily be in work. We get reports in our daily lives. I mean, any bill you get is generated. It is an invoice, or a bill is a report. So try to think about these then in database terms. So what are the tables that this information may come from? What are the fields that may comprise the information in these tables that would generate your invoice or your bill? And what kind of query needs to be done? For example, when you get a bill, it's not everybody's information on your bill. It is just your bill. So that's known as a query. It's a way of getting information from one or more table based on a certain criteria, for example, your customer ID. So we'll be looking at that, but in the meantime, also look around you. Where are all these databases used? Okay, and for this course, we're going to be using Microsoft Access 2016 as our program, and also Microsoft Visio 2016. Microsoft Visio is a program that helps you draw diagrams for your design for your database. When we have a database, we kind of have to design, okay, what kind of information do we have in this database? And we want to separate the information. So we will have what is known as different tables. So there are various objects that you use and create in a database. You start with a table. A table is just the information for a particular item or a particular entity or object. For example, customer. You'll have a customer table, or you'll have an employee table, and then you'll have a product table. You may have an inventory table. So visual allows you to display and have diagrams for all these different tables, but also how do they relate? I mean, if a customer makes an order and buys a product, how does that relate through all these different tables? If you have a customer table, okay, well, how then is their order shown? You can't keep all their orders in their table because that table would be massive, especially if that is a person who likes to buy a lot. So you need to separate out that information so the tables are manageable and just make sense. So you have a customer and they will have a relationship with an order table. And the order table will then have specific things for orders and only orders. But then that will have a specific relationship with the inventory table. And that inventory table would have all the information about products. So you see how the things are separated out. I don't keep all the information about products with an order. I have a link or a relationship to the table that has all the information on the products. Same thing for my order. I don't keep all the information of all customers in my order table, even though all customers are making orders. No, I'm going to have just a relationship or a way to get the information from the separate table that has all the information on customers. So it's just this strategy of separating out the information into logical units, but having a way to get information from one or another because they are related. So that's what Microsoft Access Database is. It's a relational database. You can relate the information between the different entities or objects that comprise your database system. And then Visio is a way of when you are designing it to kind of put out all these tables and figure out, okay, what is all this information we have? How do I separate it out into logical units like customer, employee, order, inventory? And yet, how do I bring them together when I need to make a report, when I need to send you your bill? I need to get some information from the customer table so it can send you the bill, and I need to get some information from the order table because it needs to get you the correct bill for whatever you ordered. And then I also need to make sure it's represented in the inventory table in the sense that, well, since those tables were shipped out to you, they are no longer in inventory. So the Visio is what allows you to draw these diagrams to show how they are related. How would it flow? How would you get information from the different entities and objects that you created? And how do you create those different objects? So that's why we will be using them in tandem. You'll be creating something in Visio to show the diagram, and then from the diagram, the visual representation, then you'll actually implement it in Microsoft Access, which is the database management system. So you do have books for the course, so do make sure, make sure that you get the correct textbook and also read. Now there's one thing, there's a lot of resources for information. There's your textbooks. I will be posting stuff in the classroom with videos. There's a whole internet for you to use for extra information. So find what works for you. Just because the textbook doesn't make sense to you doesn't mean you can't learn the material. What that means is that writer or that author is the one that's just not writing or explaining things the way that makes sense to you. So find something that does. There's a whole host of material out there, so find what works for you. If it's videos, if it's interactive tutorials online, or just web pages online, or another textbook. So you are really in control of your learning. So it's important that you go forward and find what works for you and your learning style because you are in control of your learning. So hopefully you will be able to find those resources that work for you. Now here are the objectives for the course. So these are all the different objectives and material that we're going to learn in this course. So it's all about relational database systems, how to design them, how to implement them, how to generate all the different objects that you wish to use or a company may use. So it's 10 sets of objectives. Each week will determine some of these objectives in more detail, but it's very helpful for you to know, okay, let's look at the objectives so that you will know whatever tools and features that you are being exploring or learning in that week, you will then know what objective it refers to. So if you are in a certain situation and need to create something, if the you'll just find some similarity to the objective that you learned here with the objective you have in the workplace. Okay, so if you look at that week, then what were the tools and features that you learned? That would be directly related to that objective. So then you will know if you are in a workplace and facing that same objective, you would then be able to know what tools and resources and features you need to explore or what you need to do for that task. So course requirements, it's an 8-week course, and each week you will be required to set up assignments. This is an online course. You must plan to have regular internet access and time to explore the resources available on the various ideas and topics we will be covering. Very important. If you have primary internet access or if your primary internet access goes down, make sure you have backup internet access. If your electricity goes out, have backup electricity. If your computer breaks, have backup computer access. So right now, many people do have multiple devices, and there are a lot of mobile applications that can be used. So make sure that you have a backup plan for internet, computer, and electricity. This way you don't have to experience an interruption with your class. And it is 8 weeks. It's a fast-paced course, so it takes enough just to learn the material, let alone to have added frustrations. So eliminate a lot of frustrations in your life by planning ahead and having these backups. And also, a lot of companies do let you work from home or remote or telecommute. So having already some strategies set into place will allow you to have this capability to do when you are in the workplace. So it's a good way to start doing it now if you haven't had all these different plans. But if not, it's good to secure them now because you may have to count on them when you are working and in the workplace. So discussion questions. You must post on 3 different days and at least 3 posts. And the last on or before Wednesday, at least the first post on or before Wednesday, and the last post on or before Sunday. So very important. 3 days, 3 posts, and they have to be substantive. Okay? You can't just say, I agree. So the first post typically will be an answer to the discussion question. Please do research. Please bring in information from the outside world because this is good for you to learn the latest and greatest in the field, to have some references that you can go to when you need to learn material, and also to share them with your classmates because then they can follow up and say, hey, I'm really interested in this topic that you're talking about, and this way you're offering them a link so they can go learn more. So it's a great way to add to the value of the classroom and interaction in the classroom, as well as for you to have some good skill set going forward for your workplace. Because when you are in the workplace, you're still going to keep learning. And and since you are still learning, you need to have these resources, especially when it comes to anything with the computer field or technology field or IT. They change. They change very quickly. So the internet is the best way to get the most updated information from companies and manufacturers. Like if you wanted the latest and greatest on Microsoft Office products, you go to Microsoft Online. Printed books are not as current. It takes time to print a book. So having already these resources for yourself is great for when you are perhaps in the workplace and need to learn this material or learn new material coming into play. You'll have resources to go to. And also it'll make you smart when you are in a meeting or you are perhaps on an interview that you also know about these latest and greatest trends and you have these resources that you can find them. That makes you look like you're ready to learn and you're open to learning, which is very important. So start developing that skill and start developing and gathering all your different references that you can use with citations, references, links, websites, textbooks. Professional organizations are also another area that you can then keep current. So explore the different professional organizations, perhaps for the field you want to go into. Sometimes these professional organizations are the ones that set the standard for the topic and field in question. So a great way to start getting that information now while you are in the classroom and share it with your classmates. This is a great time to collaborate and network. And then you have quizzes and lab assignments. Quizzes are open book, open note, but they do need to be completed by midnight. However, do take a time to read all the resources. The quizzes are based on all your resources that are available for you in the classroom. There's the lectures, there's Also, additional information in the discussion forum where I'll be posting additional videos and links. Also, your classmates will be offering additional links as well, just like I mentioned, and examples. Please post examples. You'll see my famous line that you actually create a database and offer screenshots to illustrate the information to the benefit of the class as well as you for practice. Practice makes perfect. So the more you do it, the more you learn about it, the stronger your candidate you are for the workplace, and the stronger candidate you are for technology. So it's a good thing to do. And lab assignments, though, as I mentioned previously, you can be revised and resubmitted based on my feedback up until the last day of class. Extension on quizzes, no, they only could be extended up and through Tuesday, but you have to contact me Monday because I have to give you a password. So and also you have to have a good reason. I forgot is not a good reason. So you need to do the quizzes by midnight. If there's some on Sunday midnight, if something happened, contact me. You have to contact me Monday so that I can give you a password, and then you have to complete it by Tuesday. Okay, so those are the rules on quizzes because the answers are released on Wednesdays. And then there's a final exam, as you all know and love. But if you start reviewing all the information now, using the discussion forum to learn the material, find links and references. Also, review assignments early in the week so you can get your questions answered before the assignments are due. Don't wait till the last minute. You're not going to have time to contact me, your classmate, or look up information to find out what happened and why it didn't work. Start looking ahead of time to say, oh, I know how to do this, but I maybe don't know how to do this. So I'm going to start asking my classmates in the discussion forum. That's a great way to start. And then also I'm going to start reading the materials in the classroom to see if I can find that information. If not, then go to my online resources that I know and I trust now that I know I can get this information. And also, you can complete the practice assignments in the textbook. That as well gives you good practice and helps you master the skills before you complete the graded assignments. This may be a little bit challenging if you've never done this material or exposed to databases and the technologies and the strategies for database design and implementation. So it'll take you time. So do take your time and research the information to learn about the information. You are in control of your learning. Don't expect the assignments to teach you the material. You have to know the material ahead of time before you do the assignments. So practice it from the textbook, find online resources or the videos, and then you'll be a little bit stronger when you're doing the assignment. It won't be so overwhelming and frustrating. You are also in control of how much frustration you want in your life. I think if you do things ahead of time, then you won't be as frustrated. So something to think about, even though you got a lot of things maybe going on. But the more you can just fit in, like visit the classroom every day. I would recommend that so you're not overwhelmed. This way you'll see what's going on. You can read other posts. You can read something. You can always be learning something every day. And that is what will be a successful strategy for you. If you leave it go for a few days and all of a sudden you see all these posts and all this material, the emotions may get away from you. And if it's frustrating and you're anxious, you're not going to learn. So just like you maybe check all your social media every day, go ahead and check the classroom every day as well. These are the breakup of the assignments. There's 1,000 points total. So you have discussions, which is 110. Again, there's no extension on discussion questions due to the time-sensitive nature. There's only a one-time possible substitute based on your situation only. So that's rare. So do try to get your posts in. 3 posts every week. The first one before Wednesday. You need to have substance. You need to have some links, have some examples. Practice makes perfect. Create some databases and show some screenshots. Quizzes, open book, open note. But you need to learn ahead of time. You're not going to have time during the quiz to look everything up. You only have so much time to take the quiz. And the extensions are very rare as well. It all depends on your situation. So you need to contact me by Monday for a password if you need an extension on a quiz, but it also then needs to be taken by Tuesday. There is a case study, yes. So we will explore a lot of that, bring the information and your questions about it into the classroom, but it's a fun way of learning how to use Access, how somebody in the workplace would use Access and set it up for a particular situation. And then the labs will help you along the way with your case study as well, but bring questions in the classroom. We're all into this together. So please bring in your questions, your solutions. If you find that you read someone's question and you ran into that problem, but you resolved it, offer it to your classmate. We are all in this together, so please share as much as you can. That's the beauty of collaborative online learning, is that you all are in this together and all can help each other. And I think it's an important skill to learn how to virtually communicate with others, because in the workplace, as you know, there's a lot of virtual communication, a lot of electronic communication. Learning how to do this and do it well is a success, especially knowing how much information. Posting a question, you may think that's enough, but sometimes your question has to be clear. You have to maybe offer some screenshots. You maybe have to offer some error messages. You may have to say, this is what I did, and it's pointing to this problem here. How do I fix it? So you have to be pretty detailed in your question. You can't just say, I have a problem with this. I don't know what it is. Then, first of all, you're defeating the purpose, because really you need to learn how to figure out and do some troubleshooting. It's a good, necessary skill to learn, but also help others to know what area you're having trouble with. Okay, so be as detailed as possible, and feel free to post in the classroom. That's what it's there for, and that's what we're all for in the discussion forums. And then your final exam. Okay, so welcome again. I'm so excited to have you in class. And as I mentioned before with the discussion questions, please bring in resources. Not only is it good for you to learn all these things out on the internet, there's no excuse not to know things anymore because we have the internet. It's kind of a pressure, though, because you have all this information. Why don't you know it? You know, so it's a matter now of taking the time to know it. So that's really where the crucial factor is here, and that's very important for the workplace, because they don't always have time to train every time something is new. They maybe give you a little bit of a training, but then if somebody can really go beyond that, learn on their own, be motivated to and passionate about learning these things online, that's a success for in the employer's eye. So you would be a successful candidate to hire. So try to gather those skills now if you haven't already. You may be already sharing things on social media, so it's the same thing, sharing things on here in the classroom, but obviously not social media, but it has to be academic, or using the strategies you do for sharing just in an academic manner and for the classroom, appropriate for the classroom. No plagiarism. Yeah, copying and pasting from the internet to answer your discussion question, yeah, is not good for anybody, actually. First of all, it is a serious academic offense for the college. But also, when you are in the workplace, you can't just all of a sudden start copying and pasting things as your work in the workplace. You're going to, first of all, the company, if it's a corporation and if it's for profit, I mean, they may, have lawsuits. You definitely don't want to cause your company to have lawsuits because of what you did. So it's very important that you don't do such things. So get in the habit now. Don't just copy and paste. And if you do, you can, remember, you can use information off the internet. It's quite acceptable. Just put a link or a credit to where it comes from. For two reasons. One is that it's not yours and it's coming from here. And also it's a courtesy to your reader, because maybe they want to read more about it. So this way they can click on the link and go read more about it. So it's a two thing. Don't think it's just like, oh my gosh, I don't have these ideas myself. No, you're not born with these ideas. Nobody's born with these ideas. But that's how we learn. We find and share ideas from other people. Just put the link. Okay, that's all you need to do. Obviously, professionally, having APA format is a skill in itself as well, so you can try to take a stab at that. That would be great. APA format is very important, because also, when you are in the workplace, a lot of companies have online articles or wikis or blogs. So an employee who can actually go out there and put out an article in APA format is a very, nice employee to have. So again, that puts you a step ahead of the common competitive workforce there. So any extra, pluses you can have toward your position, the better success you will be as an employee, and that just boils down to job security or job marketability and getting hired. So practice using your APA format. Again, online articles, you would have to do that, especially in any of the science fields. There's APA. There's also MLA, but MLA is typically for English types subjects and history, I believe. But anything, computer science, IT, anything related to computer science or information technology is all APA. So try to take a stab at that. So when you include a link, put it in APA format. See if you can figure it out. If not, there's a lot of APA resources in the classroom. So examples of plagiarism, the most common is I copied it and I forgot that I copied it from the website and I just posted it as if it were my own. So whenever you copy something right away, grab the link with it. You cannot use students' work as your own. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Do not purchase essays from the internet or online. Very easy. Do know that teachers can just Google your answer and it will automatically show if you copied it from the internet. So Google your own answer and see. Will it come up as something from another website or web page? That's how we know, so that's how you will know. So also, even if you're summarizing, rule of thumb is, if it's not yours, cite and reference it. Even if you, well, obviously if you double quote it, you have to, but even if you paraphrase it or summarize it, you need to also put down that it is not yours. Okay, if it's not your idea, then you need to cite and reference it. Not only for the sake that it's proper to do, also can be copyright infringement and against the law, but also gives a courtesy for you and your readers of where to go next if you wanted to go more or you want to just find that information again somewhere. Okay, so please get in the habit of doing that. Strategies to prevent plagiarism. Again, copy and paste the link with it, while you take notes, make sure it's there, and know that if it's not yours. And also it's important to do copyright and trademarks. That's a very important skill as well, especially if you are in the corporate world doing online articles. Like if it's Microsoft, there's the TR for trademark, there's the C and the R, C for copyright and R for registered. So these are different symbols. So take a stab at it and take a look at these symbols to know which to use when. Okay, now back to our course content. That's kind of an overview of just what we're going to cover in the course. But for course content, I did mention Visio, right? Now, you could use Visio or you don't have to. If you have trouble learning Visio, sometimes when you have a tool, you got to learn the tool before you can use it. So handwriting and drawing this out works, and scanning it in works for me. Using Word Scan works fine for me, but if you want, you can use it in Visio, or if you have, Visio is a Microsoft product, so it only works on PCs. So you'd have to get a different program from Mac computers or Apple products. So hopefully you will resolve this right away as soon as possible. That would be great. And then you'll be able to do this. But what this then does again, if you notice this diagram here, I talked about how you have different items or objects of a company, and you'll have more than one table. But you have to know how these tables relate, because you may have information in one table, but you may want to get information from more than one table. In order to do that, you have to have it related. So the entity relational diagram is a way of showing how tables are related. And a simple way to relate one table with another is that they share the same field. Okay. So if you have a suppliers table and you want it to be related to the products table, then make sure the supplier ID is in both tables. It's as simple as that. So they have to have the same field in each table in order to be related. Okay, so always keep that in mind. That is what I will be looking for. You will be doing stuff like this in this classroom. So if you need to relate these tables, make sure that they have the field that they are related on in both tables. As simple as that. For example, here we have supplier ID, which is related to the products table. So you'll notice supplier ID is in both the suppliers table and the product table. Okay. Customer has an order. So you'll notice that we have a customer ID also in the order table, right? Because it's the customer's order. And there's a variety of here. So look at this diagram, have fun, and just figure out how they are linked and what tables have the same fields. Okay, that's a good way to know that as well. And then when you create, the next step is design and development. This is known as a table structure or table definition, but this is the design view for the table if you are doing something in Access. When you are creating things in Access, there's always a two-step process. You need to first design the object, and then you'd have the finished product. Okay, that's why it's a little harder than Excel. Excel, I can just start typing stuff in, and I already got it, right? Access, no, you can't just start typing stuff in. You have to first design a template or a holder for the information that identifies the type of information it's going to hold, and then you can start typing in the actual information, which is known as loading the database. So you first have to design it, and then you add the actual data. So here's an example of a table definition. This is for a customer table. So typical things that you would have in a customer table is a first name, a last name, okay? It also, you have to have an ID field. As I mentioned previous slide, you always have these ID fields to relate one table with another table, okay? You also need an ID field to determine one record from another record, one customer from another customer. I cannot use first name and just last name to identify another customer from a different customer. What if they have the same name? So I have to have what is known as a primary key field, which means it's a unique number. Customer ID is probably the first customer is number 1. Next one is number 2. Next one is number 3. They can all have the same name, but I know they're different people by their customer ID. Okay, so every table needs to have some kind of identifying field. This is known as the primary key field. Sometimes it's already inherent in the information you're collecting. Like typically for people, we have social security numbers, right? So those are unique, but we may not want to use that for an identifier in the table because that's supposed to be private information. People are not really supposed to have access to that information unless they have authorized access. So you wouldn't definitely want to start giving it to just some, cashier or when you're placing an order to a clerk. Okay, so there are some things that are inherent and unique, but they not always will make the best candidate for a primary key field. Okay, so you'll learn more about that as you create it, but all tables have to have it. Access will really tell you, it'll create one for you if you didn't put it in, but if it creates one for you, it's very generic. It's just called ID. So you always will want to change it. Don't ever leave the default generic ID field. As you are creating your databases for this class or your tables for this class, change it. Delete that temporary ID one that it gave you or the default ID one and create a new one based on the instructions, okay? Like if you didn't, you'd have a customer ID field here, but also Access will have something just called ID. So you can't just have ID and customer ID. Okay, so that's a common mistake that students have sometimes when they create it. So watch out for that error and don't do it. Okay. Okay, next thing is, now this is a data sheet view. Okay, once you created a table, you can then enter in the information. Okay, this is relationships. We mentioned about relationships. How do you relate tables? They need to have the same. Again, this is a bad example because it just says customer and have ID. It has customer ID in the orders table related to ID. It is the same number, okay? But this is an error in this picture, right? What's wrong with this picture? It should say customer ID in this first table, like just saying. But this is how you relate it. You will know, you'll get to the relationship screen in Access, and all you do is kind of drag this ID field to the customer ID, and it automatically creates a list for you. So it's pretty user-friendly there. But don't make this mistake. Don't leave anything, just say ID. Here you go. This one's better. Now, this one is a query. Now, a query is the only way to get more information from one or more tables, okay? But the only way to do that is if the tables are related. You could tell these tables are related because they have those lines connecting the tables, right? And the reason they're connected as well is because they share the same field, right? Customers table has a customer ID, and that customer ID is also in the orders table. So that's why those two tables are related. The orders table is related to the products table because the product ID is in both tables, okay? But there's no customer ID in the products table. So whenever you have something like that, where you need to make a connection, I want to know what products that customer ordered, but I don't have customer ID in the product table, then you have to find that table that kind of connects them from in between. Here it's the orders table. So whenever you do a query, you can't just put customers and products as the tables. You need to also include orders because it needs to then jump from one table to another. It will do that automatically and internally for you. At some processing, it does automatically behind the scene, but this is how that would work. So you'll always have to do that. You'll have an example of that when you are creating it for one of your assignments. You'll actually have to put 4 tables together to get to the first one and the last one, but you need all those tables in between because that's how you can get through and link between all the different tables. But When you are doing a query, this is known as a QBE grid on the bottom. The QBE grid kind of is where you make your specifications, saying, okay, I want to show the customer ID, I want to show the first name, last name, product name, and the price. You're just saying it. Again, the query allows you to show some information from one or more tables, some or all. Typically, you don't want all the information all the time. When you get your bill, you don't have everybody's bill and the customer for that company. You only get yours. In order to get just some of the information, you use this QBE grid and specify the information you want. Okay. You can also put in here criteria. Okay. Say I want only your information. So then I would put under criteria, if you see the row, there's all these different rows. There's the field, table, sort, show, criteria. Criteria is where you would type in your ID. And that's how to get only your information. So you have that option as well. Here, if I didn't put your ID in there for a criteria, I will see all customers. Okay? But I only want yours, then I would have to put your criteria in there to only get yours. And also the show. There's the show box if you see the check mark. Now that if you want to show that in the results, you can. But sometimes, like say, I want all customers in Illinois. Well, I'm going to be using Illinois as my criteria, right? But I have 1,000 customers in Illinois. I maybe don't want it to show Illinois, 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 all the way down the line, right? I may just sort and then have a title, this is customers in Illinois one time, and then it lists all the other information. So that's when you would want to use the check marker now. So more, again, things that we'll be looking at. And then here's your result. Here's an example of these queries. Here we have example of where I only want those customers from France, UK, and USA, right? Now, when you go into this design, as I showed here, this is your design, your QBE grid. After the design, you have to click on Run. There is a Run button up at the top when you are in the screen, and it will give you the answer or the result. Form is another object. Again, anything you do in Access, you have to do the design first, then run it. Right? You had the table design first where I put in all the fields, and then I ran it and had actual data. The query, I specified what I want, what kind of data I want to choose from my tables, and then I ran it. Same thing here. I'm going to be designing the form. The form is designed in Visual Basic, which is a programming language, and most of all of Microsoft Office products are typically designed in Visual Basic. So these are the Visual Basic. This is the Visual Basic version, and this is a visual editor. So it's really nice. You don't have to know how to program in Visual Basic. All you have to do is kind of draw out your form. And also, you will know that there's a lot of wizards. Access has what is known as a wizard, kind of walks you through the process of creating some frequently used objects. Okay, so you can use the form wizard, and it just gives you a generic template of a form. Or you can do something specific and design it. When you design it, you can specify and put in your company logos. You can change color, change font, typical things that you would want to design. This is a form view. So you have a form view. So typically when you've interacted with a database, you probably entered information in this type of a form. Application forms are similar to this. This is a form, and it allows you to type in information for one person or item at a time. And it can display information, or you can enter information, so you can add, you can delete, and so forth. So we'll learn more about creating forms as well. And then reports, very similar. Report is similar to the form in that it is created in Visual Basic, but a report does not take any data entry. Forms you can enter information in. Forms are useful for data entry because it allows you to make information or enter information for one person at a time. That's very handy so that you don't make mistakes. And also you can have a bunch of instructions on your form. So if you go back to your form, all kinds of things you can put on your form if you wanted to. You can have drop-down lists so that people don't make a mistake. Typical things you'll find as a drop-down list is the states of the United States. And the reason why is because the value is unique, right? If we want someone to enter someone's information, say they are in Illinois, we need it to be IL. Because when we are in that search criteria, when we were, for that example, there was France, UK, and USA. Well, if somebody entered in United States instead of USA, then their information won't show up when I do a query because that value is different. USA is different than the United States. Even though we know it's the same country, it's the wrong pattern of letters. Okay, so computer just looks at patterns of letters. So drop down lists are nice to keep from having people make mistakes because I could do IL for Illinois, I could do ILL, I can spell out the whole thing, ILLINOIS, and so forth. But in order to be specific, one value so you're consistent, and also when you ever do search queries, it'll work properly. That's how you eliminate errors. So the form allows you to do a lot of those things. You can have drop-down boxes. You can have default values. You can have fields that they cannot change it, or you can make sure it's required information. How many times have you typed into an application form, and if you left a field empty by accident, it would say, no, that's a required field. Go back and enter the information. So that's the beauty about forms. Now, reports are a way of getting just professional views or looks of your data. And reports are very common in the workplace, so we've been looking at some typical forms that are done. But now forms can be based on a table, or it can be based on a query, right? If I just want your grade report, for example, I'm going to do a query first on your student ID. Then I will just get your grades, and that's what I'm going to use as the basis for my report. So reports you can do, again, if you're going to do all the information, you use a table. If you can do some of the information, it has to be based on a query. So that's one of the steps. You would just tell it what report, whenever you're doing a report, you would specify, okay, this report is going to come from the data in this table, or it's going to come from the data in this query. And then you're allowed to do a professional format. Again, you have a wizard for reports that can help you walk through the process and create a generic report, which is fine as well. But some things you may want to do, there's grouping, you can do totals. Here's an example of, additional information on a report. You have a date, you have a time, and so forth. So on the bottom, you have how many, and customer type. This is a grouping. Customer type is individual, customer type is government. For individuals, we have 6 customers who are individuals. And so there's grouping involved, but it's a nice professional view. So we'll learn how to do that as well. Okay, so for the class collaboration, please reach out to myself or your classmates. We're all in this together. So it's not only just for the discussion questions. Read all the posts in the discussion forums to learn great information. Read all the posts to get questions or answers to your questions. Post your questions. And so if you are going through the post and see a question you can answer of your classmate, help them out. Again, we're all in this together. And view all the resources, bring in all resources. And don't panic, you're not in a vacuum. Also, feel free to get tutors or go to a local campus to help you out. There's a lot of ways for you to learn this information. And I'm running on time more than I wanted to, but every Friday I'll post a preview for the upcoming week. Every Tuesday, office hours are 2 to 3. Monday or Tuesday, I will post when grades are completed, and I will be putting out videos throughout the course for help you with the assignments. This is just the first one as overall, an overview. And I'm usually around. Sundays, again, don't wait till Sundays. Sundays, I'm busy too. I mean, I usually want to be with my family and church and dinner and all that good stuff. So if you could review assignments early in the week, get the questions out ahead of time so that everybody has time to answer them or help you. I mean, don't wait till last minute. Someone else is busy doing their own work. So the sooner you start reviewing and realizing, oh, I know this, but I don't know this. So let me see how I can find information. Ask, go to resources, classroom, classmates, me. So you have a variety of resources. And again, you're in control of your learning. The textbook, again, complete those practice assignments as well, because that will help you then to master the skills before the graded assignment. And here's all the information here for me. Text, calls, voicemail, most welcome. Voicemail, yeah. That means I didn't get a chance to answer, but leave a voicemail. And, okay, it'll be a great class, and I look forward to working with you. I'm going to cut this off. It was only supposed to be half hour, but I think I extended that, but that's okay. I'm looking forward to working with you and all, and I will also post these slides in the classroom so you can view some of those different components of when we start learning about Visio and Access, as well as strategies and links and all that good stuff. Thanks. Take care and welcome to the class. I look forward to working with you and learning from you all. Bye.